Hello everyone and welcome to Finance with JCL, the show for new and intermediate level investors. Today's show, I want to share my vision and plan for this channel, and in particular, I'm going to set out the roadmap for how you can level up your investing knowledge. So I'll set out how the different videos, how the different shows on the channel link together to enable you to grow your investing knowledge to a good level. So on with the show. The way I'm going to set this out is we have, coming in here, we've got step one. So if new investors, if you are completely new to the game, I think your level one is step one is the critical principles of investing. So before you move on to different information, I think this section needs to be bottomed out. And I've got a playlist on YouTube, which will be called the Red Series. And that will be kind of the absolute critical things that you need to know. The example of these things, first of all, there's the budgeting process, the principle of compounding, and perhaps the answer to the question, why should I even bother investing in the first place? This is a sort of subsection of the videos, shows that I'll be making. But I just want to give you a flavour of what's coming up in that critical principles section. Now, I reckon all in, there's probably going to be up to 3 hours worth of content for that level. So level 2, this is going to be the introduction to investing terms that will build upon the critical principles. We'll start to introduce investing specific terminology, and that will be via what I'm calling the Orange series. It's kind of the next level up. And the kind of things I'll be sharing will be what is free cash flow, very much an investing term, what is the current ratio and why is it useful, and what are index trackers and how can they be useful in your investing career. I think once the critical principles and these new investing terms being reviewed, they get to level 3, and the investing principles, or the green series in terms of the YouTube playlist. So I think these 3 levels will get you to a point where you say, right, I'm a new investor, I now know a decent amount about investing. You should be able to feel a bit more confident about taking decisions. But of course, always remember, if you're unsure, there is professional advice that you can take. Now in this investing principles green series, I'll be discussing absolutely important principles. The margin of safety is the number one thing. So I'll be making a show on that shortly. And for me, if there's one thing to take away from all this information, it is margin of safety. It's absolutely critical in investing because it is a great rule to stop you losing money, and it means there should be an upside of 100% or more on any investment that you make. I've made a show on why market crashes are opportunities, and also investing with objectives. So these are the kind of things that I want to share with you as part of what I think you need to know around the principles of investing. Now, once you've got to that stage where you've understood and mastered the first 3 levels, I think you can then move up to the intermediate level of investing. But actually, before we get there, the other one to mention is the portfolio updates that I'll be sharing and the 1 million challenge. So I've set myself a challenge to have an investment portfolio of £1 million, and I'll be posting regular updates as to how I'm progressing on that challenge, in addition to how my portfolio is changing. And the reason for that is that I want to share my logic and thought process with you, because that may give you some ideas and examples of the thinking discussed in those first 3 levels. So it's kind of like a practical, real life examples, rather than perhaps the theory of the principles in the terms. So following the review of the first 3 levels and the portfolio and £1 million challenge, I would then have level 4, which I would perhaps say is kind of the intermediate level investors. And there are 2 distinct kind of playlists or streams here. The first is the company review series. So this is where I will take a company that I have reviewed and share my findings as to whether I think, in my opinion, I want to invest in them, whether they're a good company or not, and is their valuation in step with their price, or is there a margin of safety there? So again, some practical examples of some of the other things in action. And then also there'll be what I call the intermediate investing information, or the Blue series. Now, the sort of things that will cover would be perhaps my top investing mistakes and how you might be able to learn from those, how companies will generate cash for you, and actually when to sell. So it's all well and good knowing about what a stock is, how and what an investment is, why you should do it, but actually, when should you buy something, when should you sell something? Those are the key questions, because that's actually when the money changes hands and when you actually lock in, hopefully, profits, but sometimes losses. And on the company review side, I have reviewed Bank OZK, an American bank, which is based on the outcome of that, one of my favourite companies. And there will be lots more to follow. Every sort of 2 or 3 weeks, I will be uploading one of these. And if you do have any suggestions or requests for companies for me to review, please do post them in the comments section. I'll be very happy to investigate. So that kind of then takes us to what I would say is the top level, which is detailed valuations of companies. So how in detail to perform a discounted cash flow, how to assess company's book value against its price. So these are the actual really kind of detailed methodologies for processes for how to actually perform the valuations. So my plan is not to include that in detail at the moment. So the show is aimed at new and intermediate level investors. And I consider getting to that stage that's a bit more advanced. So what may happen is that in the future I may produce that as kind of one packaged course, subject to demand. So if I'm going to take quite a bit of input and time to get to produce that content. So if a lot of people are finding my kind of new investors level 1 to 3 content useful, and they're going into that level 4, and the feedback's coming through is, yeah, this is good, we like this, it's useful, then I'll produce kind of that level 5 information around the detailed valuations of the methods I just mentioned. So in summary, the channel is aimed at new and intermediate level investors in the different categories that we saw. And so the show that I'll be referring back to frequently, because I find this is the roadmap to tie the different learnings and shows together. So I've uploaded, as of today, something like 10 or 11 shows so far, at least on YouTube. And there's perhaps an element of randomness, why have these ones been done? But the idea of this is to bind it all together so you can understand and help me articulate why I'm uploading certain bits of information. And then there is the YouTube playlist function. So all the different levels I've split into the different playlists. So you'll be able to kind of hit in one playlist as I produce them, the basic mandatory principles, read level 1. So you can just go through those, watch them all, or bookmark them all to play later. And then you've got all that content in one kind of easy to find and digest place. So hopefully the roadmap to success will help you on your investing journey and help to share my knowledge and experience with you to help support you get better outcomes from your long-term investing. So in closing, I'd like to thank you very much for joining me on the show. I'd really appreciate if you hit the like button to help me promote this show. And if you're watching on YouTube, please do subscribe and then hit the notification bell, and you'll be able to find out about my next shows as I release them and how they fit into that roadmap. So again, thanks very much for joining me, and I really hope this information and the information that I'm sharing will help you on your journey to investment success.